right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome. It's so good to have you all join us today. I'm so glad you're all able to be here for our first event of 2023. I'm Katie, Success with Marketing Specialist, and today we will be hearing from Product Manager Judd Moore. And as you know, he will be talking about how you can utilize M365 to increase your productivity with modern files and communications. Just a few things before we get started. We will have time for questions at the end, so please hold on to those. But if you'd prefer to send them in the chat, feel free to do that as well throughout the presentation. Additionally, we will be doing a giveaway. So 3 winners will go away with either a $50 Amazon gift card, a Lenovo headset, or a Lenovo laptop power bank. So stick around at the very end. We'll be announcing those winners. And then lastly, we also have a new M365 offering. So our learning and development professional, Alex Story, will be touching on that as well at the very end. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to Judd, and he's going to go ahead and get the presentation started for us. Take it away, Judd.
Thanks, Katie. I'll go ahead and share my screen here and hop into the presentation. And we'll get going. As Katie mentioned, folks, I'm Judd Moore. I'm the product manager at Success. Also, kind of more to the point today, I'm a modern workplace enthusiast. So here to share with you my experience and some tips to help you learn. Thanks for joining. Let's dive right in today. Here's what we're going to take a look at. We're going to start with enhancing effectiveness communications in teams. I bet many of you joined for this next one, reducing email clutter in teams. We all get too many emails, right? And we'll wrap up with modern files in Microsoft 365 before we pivot into questions, which we'll cover at the end. So let's set some context before we hop into the agenda. What is the modern workplace? Well, as you can see here, it provides employees the tools to be productive regardless of where and when they work. That last phrase is key. Let's look at that in a little more detail. Historically, we got work done by being in the same time in the same place for collaborative knowledge work, right? And of course, the pandemic disrupted all of that, right? And how do we make up for that? Mostly, we did it with video meetings, different places, same time. What I want you to know is there's a lot of features in Teams that can not only help us meet in different places and do collaborative work, we can also meet at different times. So that's what a lot of the tips are going to cover today, is how we can still do collaborative work, but not necessarily have to meet at the same point in time to do it. Now let's frame this up a little bit a different way before we hop into the agenda as well, just to kind of frame up the paradigm shift, as you see here, that's taking place as we shift from legacy to modern work. Now in legacy world, our mobility is kind of restricted, right? We're mostly tied to the office. Our security is perimeter dependent. Collaboration is really rooted in sort of digging around on a file server through a bunch of nested folders that we have to access through VPN or remote desktop or something else clunky. And as a result, the power lies with the corporation, and it's kind of rooted in that structure. And the responsibility is mostly on IT to kind of make things happen. IT was really the constraint. Now contrast that with modern systems, okay? As we know, we have a lot more choices in where we can work. Security is not so dependent on the perimeter. We can use search to discover, and we can collaborate both synchronously and asynchronously. So what's the point here, Judd? The point is, you and I as end users, we have so much more power and responsibility in how we get our work done. There's so many great things that can help us work in different ways, more effectively than the traditional ways, if we just take advantage of it. So let's dive in and look at that, starting with, how do we meet and communicate in teams? So we're going to start with the fundamentals here, folks, okay? Scheduling meetings, probably not the most exciting tip, but we'll build from there on the basics, okay? So we're going to stop typing in each individual team member in Teams meeting invites and forgetting someone. We're going to start inviting the entire team in one click, and what do we get? We save some time and improve accuracy. Let's take a look at what this looks like. So we're in Outlook here, right? Okay, many of us schedule meetings there. We go in, we start a new meeting invite, we type in the invite name. Now, instead of inviting, say, Nestor, and then picking everybody else we're going to invite individually, what we're going to do is we're going to use the distribution group, or if you have a team set up, we're going to use the team name and use that. That way, once we set our time and the rest of the details, we go ahead and click send. That will invite everybody in one click. Now, it's very similar in Teams. If we go to Teams and we click new meeting here and we make a new meeting invite in Teams, similar process. What we're going to do is add our meeting title in here, and let's say in this case we're going to invite the Mark 8 project team. I'm going to go ahead and just type in the name of that team. And again, once we click send, now that'll invite everybody. Probably not groundbreaking, but it'll save you a couple of clicks, and we all do it often enough. Moving on to bigger and better things here. Let's also edit our meeting options, okay? I know I've been guilty of this, and I'm going to ask you to give me a reaction here several times throughout the presentation. So you see that react button at the top. If you can relate to any of this, let me know. Have you ever changed the meeting options in your meeting? Give me a thumbs up. Or are you always using the defaults? I know I'm using the defaults. Yeah. Well, if we can go ahead and get away from that habit, we start to review and adjust the meeting options. We got a lot of power there, okay? We're just gonna have a better meeting experience. So let's take a look at what that looks like. You can do this before the meeting, by the way, but from more, once we're in a meeting here in the lobby, say, we pick these meeting options and you see we can have these lobby options there and we can choose who's gonna be able to get into the lobby. Now, I like that one. I like people in my organization. That way, before the meeting starts, we can have a little powwow, we can test our settings, whatever it is we need to do, and then we go on our way. But pick whatever works for you. Here's another great one. You can see the various settings there, but I really like this announce when callers lean or leave. Excuse me. Boy, that's easy for me to say, isn't it? Join or leave. Give me a thumbs up if this has ever happened to you. You're in a meeting, you got a good flow going, you're a participant, you're 5-10 minutes in, things are going smoothly. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, voice comes on, 8675309 has joined the meeting. Has that ever happened to you? And it just disrupts the whole flow. I don't see any reason for it. You can turn that off right here. I mean, I can understand why some organizations, if you're highly regulated, might want that on. For me, it doesn't matter in the meetings I run, so I've taken to turning that off. You can also, as you see here, set who can present. You can choose to allow or disallow mic and camera for attendees. So you have more meeting control, like if you want to do a webinar thing like we're doing. You can record automatically too, which is amazing. So guess what we're going to look at next, folks? Spoiled myself there, didn't I? Let's do that. Did you know there's automated transcription with speaker attribution and recording capabilities right in Teams? Well, there is, and I'm here to tell you, it's pretty amazing. I use it all the time. If we stop dubbing somebody to just be the note taker, think about it. I'm sure some of you have been in this position. I know I have. You're the note taker. It's just harder to participate in the meeting, right? Well, you can use the transcription and the recording to help with that. So we turn on the recording and transcription. We're going to get instant meeting notes. And by the way, let's say I get invited to a meeting, but I'm not a key participant necessarily. If I am not able to make that meeting, I can still catch up later with the recording and the transcription. So we got a recording here. I'm going to narrate. It's tough to kind of demo this live. But here, Vanessa and Taylor are in a meeting, okay? We're going to choose more. And we're just going to scroll down into the options there, and we can flip on the recording right there. And you see participants get a notification at the top, okay? It starts the recording and transcription, so people know that they're being recorded. You can see there on the right-hand side in the transcript, it starts transcribing what Vanessa's saying right here in the demo, and Taylor's saying, and attributing that to who the speaker is, so that when people go and look at the recording who weren't there live, they know who was saying what, right? Now, when you're ready to I'm sorry, you can also turn on live captions as well. That's pretty great. So you can see the subtitles kind of thing at the bottom. Now remember, live captions, those aren't available afterwards. That's just kind of like live subtitles and they're gone. So if you want it to persist, you're going to want to use that transcription feature, but you can also have those live captions. Now, once you're done with it all, you want to turn that off. You can go ahead and click more again, and there's an option to stop the recording and the transcription right from there. If you stop the recording, like you see here, that's going to turn off the transcription as well. Or if you want, you can just turn off the transcription. Or once everyone has left the meeting, Teams will automatically stop it for you, so you don't have a 14-hour recording, okay? All right, next up for bids is, let's see here. Find the right button, sorry. How do we access the meeting recording and transcription when it's done? Well, I'm glad you asked. And here's what I love. Microsoft's put a lot of care into this. We all know how to access the calendar, right? That easy. You go find the meeting invite, you click into it, you expand the details from the Teams meeting invite, and you see at the top here, you've got chat file details. You've got your recording right there. You click that. It's going to pop it open. And you have the ability to share, copy the link, or download it. Same thing with the transcription. The transcription's right there, and I can click into it and view it in context right after the meeting, right within Teams, so my attention is still focused right there. Or if I want, I can download it to do something with it outside of it. Now, here's the way I like to use these features. Katie, the co-presenter here, and I, we tend to write marketing material for our company, right? So sometimes we're going around and we're interviewing thought leaders. You could use it for customer interviews, a lot of different ways to use it, but we can stay more dialed into the meeting that way. Maybe take a couple of high-level notes, but then we can kind of review the recording and transcription so we can stay dialed into what's most important, and maximize the time that we're spending with, like the executives in the company for us, for thought leadership, or, other key resources, key customers, things like that. You get it. All right, moving on. Let's take a look at using polls in Teams as well. Polls are a fantastic way to be more efficient. I'm sure that in days gone by, I know I've done it. Any you ever done this where you're just emailing everybody, hey, what do you think and whatnot? If we're using forms and polls, we're going to have time savings. We're going to get instant results. We're going to have better participation. Now, just to elaborate it out a little bit, just think about this. If you're in a meeting, if somebody presents a poll to you and all you have to do is click multiple choice and type in a couple of comments, are you going to be more likely to fill that out right there in context during the time that you're talking about the subject, right, where it's literally on your mind and you're working on it? Or are you going to be more likely to go dig around an email and find a survey that's going to get lost in the shuffle? I think you can see which is better. Let's take a look at how to do this. So go ahead and click into a meeting. In this scenario, we're going to have a team lunch, so I want to figure out what everybody's votes are. We go ahead and click the plus sign, okay? And then we're going to search for the Forms app. That's the app that, there's two apps. It's one of the two apps can help us do this. So we click Forms, we add it into our meeting here, and then we go ahead, one Mississippi, while it loads up here. Almost instantaneous, not quite. Once it loads up, we click Save, and then we're in it, and we can pick whatever options we want here. We hit Create New, and you see it gives us some ideas there. We can pick some of those pre-templated things and do it that way. Or like you see here, we can also click Join, and once we're in the meeting, we can launch an instant poll as well. So once the meeting starts up here, there's that polls button at the top, or if it's not there, you can add it from the More section. We just click Create New. Same experience here, right? We get a couple of different options. We can go ahead and customize those, send off the poll, get everybody's feedback instantaneously, better participation that way. All right, love that one, love polls. Next up, breakout rooms. Now, in the physical world, let's say we've got a big team, we're meeting. I'll give you a personal example here. Sales and marketing team meets success for training, right? What do we do in the physical world? We get together, we have a training topic, we have a couple of facilitators, and then we break into small groups. And do the same thing on Teams, right? A way to frame this up in terms of benefits is one of the things about small groups is it helps you foster engagement from overlooked voices. So if you're running a hybrid meeting with some remote people and some on-site people, speaking from personal experience, I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you, but sometimes it's harder to get in when you're remote. People just there's just that split second of delay, when you're a remote participant. I know that's happened to me. And of course, we've got introverts, right? Less likely to speak up maybe in the entire group, but have good things to say. So if we're using breakout rooms, we're just going to have more inclusive meetings, better discussions, and better outcomes. And even besides kind of, that framework, great way to facilitate training. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Again, recorded demo here. Tough to demo a meeting within a meeting within a meeting. This is an inception, right? So Vanessa's going to go ahead and click breakout rooms, and then you can assign the participants in your meeting. So you can see that she's with D and Taylor. She's going to go ahead and assign D to room number 1, all right, from this little wizard here. Pick room 1 and assign Taylor as well, room 2, and then go ahead and click Assign. Now, once that's done, if we want, we can simply go ahead and click Open the meeting from the right-hand side. Once the participants are assigned, you see that open button popped up, or from the gears setting here, we can adjust some additional settings. So you can do things like let people return to the meeting main room on their own. You can automatically move people to rooms. You can set a time limit, and you can even assign presenters to manage those rooms for you. All right. Now, once you've assigned everybody and set the settings, you go ahead and click Open, and people will be assigned to the rooms. They get a little countdown to let them know they don't just disappear. Microsoft has thought about the experience, but they'll pop into the room here, And now you can see Vanessa, she's going to go select room 1, and she's going to join that as an organizer. She can decide which room she wants to go to. She's going to join room 1 with D. Now she pops up. Here's Vanessa. Here's D in their own little meeting instance. They can have their small group discussion. Once they're done, they can just go ahead and click return at the top, and they will return to the main session. Or Vanessa is the organizer. She can go ahead and close all the rooms right there, and that's going to pull everybody from all the rooms back into one main team session, main teams meeting. All right. So again, great way to conduct some kind of smaller group training. Try out some breakout rooms. I think you're going to like it. All right. So as we kind of transition from this section into the next one about reducing email clutter, just some tips for you if you're interested. I know I like shortcuts, so if you want, you can screenshot this. Also, do me a favor here. Go to the top of your Teams meeting, and there's a search bar. Type a / into that. Now, don't type what I'm about to tell you. Type the /. Now, my favorite one, and you'll see a big list of commands that come up. Okay, my favorite one is /. Don't type it, because it'll pull you out of this meeting, / test call. What's awesome about that is you'll have these things, right? Microphone, right? The virtual world is different, right? We have equipment that helps us. So one of the advantages of that test call thing, it just pulls up a little wizard. So before you're in a Teams meeting, you can test your audio and video on your own, a little automated attendant to help you with that. Cut out some of the awkwardness at the beginning of the meetings. Now, this is going to fix no, but it'll help you kind of at least figure out what the settings are. If it's working properly, you can test the audio and see what you look like before you go into a meeting. So I love that one. Okay, moving on into reducing email clutter. Can I get some applause if that sounds like a good thing from the reactions at the top? I know. I'm going to go ahead and do it. Oh, man. All right. It's not a magic bullet, okay? We still have communications, but there's really some great stuff in Teams that's going to help us. Let's take a look. First, we're going to stop using email as the default, okay? If we organize our communications into teams and channels, we're going to have fewer emails. We can tune into what we care about, and this is what I really love. Anybody ever been in the position of some new employee joins your team or joins the company, whatever it is, and you're in the position of finding old communications via email to forward to them because they didn't automatically get access to those emails with that key info? That's a thing of the past if we're using Teams, folks. Future members of the team get access to what's in that team. So as your membership changes on your team, it's automatically taken care of for you. So what do you get if you're in a team? Well, let's take a look here. First of all, you can see, again, visible to the entire team here, right? We've got a communication in a Teams channel. We've got a shared file because there's a shared file library. We're going to look at files more in depth later today. You've got a whole files library, and here's a sample file right here in context, right? We've got threaded chat all in one place. We're not digging around our inbox looking for different, subjects of everything. It's all threaded in individual conversations like this. So again, we're just going to be digging around less in Outlook. All right. The key is you got to start creating teams, and then in each team, which is a set of people and assets, you can have different channels. So you can use those to be subjects or projects, whatever you want to be. All right. Tip number 2. If we stop emailing quick questions and we start using chat, or if you already are, I bet a lot of you already are, right? This is kind of a no-brainer, but here's the challenge for you. Are you really using chat to its full potential all the time? I know that when early on, in my team's adoption curve, I wasn't necessarily using chat. I was still, my default would be, okay, email, and then I'd use chat about 20% of the time. So even if you're already using chat, just challenge yourself to, kind of push and think about when it's the best context. We're going to get some fewer emails. It's really good for those quick Q&A type things. And that status indicator can really help us. If you're not familiar with the status indicator, it's, a little button next to someone's name. And if it's red, it's tied to their Outlook calendar. That means they're busy. Outlook shows they're in a meeting, or the Teams calendar, both, whether they're online, whether they're away, that kind of thing, with different color presence indicators. So just help us be more efficient. Now, you might be asking yourself at this point, okay, Judd, we're talking about chat in Teams. We're talking about channels. Which, when? Question. Glad you asked. High level. Think about chat as replacing phone calls, for real, quick on the spot private conversations. And if you don't need, ongoing access to a shared library and it's for files and it's more transactional, chat is a good option. Now you can share files and chat. It's just the persistence isn't as good as in Teams. Contrast that with channels. If you're going to do regular work with a group of people, you probably want a team with channels. Again, where all posts are visible to the entire team. It's a great place for team-related announcements, project work, official updates, that kind of thing. You do get that shared file library and a great place to host team meetings like we saw kind of early on. All right. So tip number 3. If we stop forwarding our email to a team and just handling every customer concern via email, we can be a lot more efficient if we're doing that in Teams. You can handle some of those key emails internally and respond once everyone is in agreement via Teams. We're going to save some time and have a better response. So let me put this in context for you with a scenario. Let's say Bob at ABC Company is a customer and he emails us and he's not happy. And I know I have to talk to at least 2 people, to figure this out. I could start emailing those people, but what happens when we have to pull in a third people and you've got multiple strings going and some people are foreign, it's going fast and furious. It's not organized as well as it is in Teams. What we can do instead is we can take that email, pull it into Teams, figure out what we're going to do, and once we know, whoever's designated can go reply to Bob and email, okay, what does this look like? It's kind of hard to explain, so you're just going to have to try it out, but I promise you'll love it. So what does it look like practically, how to do this? Well, here I am in a Teams, excuse me, well, my laser pointer here. So here I am in the Contoso team in the general channel. I'm just going to click the 3 buttons here, right? And I click get email address. Now, once I do that, what I get is I get this email address. I can just click copy. And then here's an email I made and sent to this team. I just pasted that email address into the email address bar, okay? And then I wrote a generic subject line, nothing in the body. And I sent it to that channel in Teams. Now, what does Teams do? Well, for one thing, in the Files tab, it saves that email message for me, which is pretty great. So if I need it later, it's right there in the team that was handling the work, right? But also, more importantly, boom, see how the email lands right there in Teams? That is literally the text of the email that I wrote. Now, people can start replying, everybody that's in that team. And like I say, if somebody isn't a member of that team and I need to get them involved, I add them in and they have access to the whole communication string, to the files library there, everything that we need all in one place for everyone. All right. Reducing email clutter, tip number 4. We can stop using email to send out agendas all the time for meetings. We can start posting those in Teams. And if we @mention people selectively, we can get their attention to kind of pull them ahead of the meeting to organize their thoughts towards our pre-work in the agenda. What's going to happen when we do that? Well, we're going to have fewer emails and all the relevant meeting information is in the same place. And the meeting's just going to run much better. I'm going to pull the curtain back for you a little bit, folks, and share a personal example. So early on in my career, I mostly would just send a meeting request and it was subject line and that was it. We'd show up and then we'd talk about what we need to talk about. You know what that phenomenon results in? It results in wasted time. Why do we have a meeting? So the key here is not only using Teams, but also having an agenda. If I'm not writing that agenda with kind of what the topic and purpose of the of the meeting is, then I've been guilty of wasting people's time. And what I found is if I'm writing that agenda, it helps me kind of dial in to, do I really need, again, kind of back to our first slides, do I need the right people? Do I need everybody that I thought I needed at the same place at the same time to solve this? Maybe I just need to post a couple of questions in a channel and let people respond at their leisure and add them to get their attention, and go from there. And we don't actually need to meet. So I'm sure some of you shudder when you hear the word meeting. I know I do. I've had too many of them. What I'm pointing towards is all these practices together can help us cut through some of that. Meetings aren't inherently bad. Email isn't inherently bad. But if we're more selective and we use the tools and Teams, it's going to help us, steward our time and attention more wisely. All right. Tip number 5. Did you know that we don't have to use email for announcements? And guess we're going to do it better. You guessed it. Come on. There's no spoilers anymore. Teams. Okay. Less email, more visibility. Sometimes a message just needs to stand out. So what does that look like? Well, when we click new conversation and we go to format that, instead of just picking conversation, we can pick announcement. And then you see here, you get a headline, you get a subheading, and then I can just type whatever I want into the body of my message here. And on the right-hand side here, even I can, insert an image for the background, or I can change the color of the background for that header. And I go ahead and send it. Again, not a groundbreaking thing, but just more visibility for those kind of announcement type things. Hey, Bob's a new employee. You really need it to stand out, whatever it is, right? Make it stand out when you need to. All right, folks, bonus tip. Is everyone excited? We gotta have some fun here. I know this isn't thrilling necessarily, but incrementally, we can make progress and do things better. So not exactly on point of reducing email, but you might be thinking, all right, Judd, I'm with it. I get, what you're saying with some of this. I see the value, but aren't we just taking a bunch of stuff from email and kind of forklifting it over into Teams? So we just have a bunch of stuff over here that we still have to sort through and sift through. You're right. But here's how we're gonna handle that. We don't just have to scroll through a bunch of stuff in Teams. We can filter to understand when is somebody called out our name via an @ mention that we need to do something versus it's just an FYI like Bob added a smiley face or whatever it is, right? We're going to save some time. So what does this look like? Well, here's a Teams feed, right? In the left-hand side here, highlighted in the red box. We can go ahead and from the top, we can filter by all the criteria that you see there. Again, I really like to use that @ mentions. That's when somebody's called out my name. And so if we select that, see how that cuts it all down? Somebody has said, hey, Judd, essentially, by using an @ mention. And that lets me know this is something I need to do. So I can prioritize those things first, and then I can get to the FYIs later if I have time that are less important. So we don't have to kind of scroll through everything like we might in email. Think about this too, like if you're an email power user and you use those kind of click to assign a color categories or some custom tags in email, this kind of can help supplant that. Microsoft has it carved up into all those categories for you. All right. That's it for the email and the communications. But what about files? Well, again, I'm glad you asked. In OneDrive, Teams, and SharePoint, here's the value. You can see it right there. Anywhere access, secure sharing, not just inside my organization, but outside as well. We can collaborate synchronously and asynchronously, and the file versioning is automatic. We're going to look at all of that. So here's a way to frame this up first, okay? Big picture to kind of help park it in your head, understand it at a high level before we get into the detailed how-tos. My stuff, team stuff, and everyone's stuff. And as you can see, OneDrive and Teams, they're really kind of editing collaborative spaces, whereas SharePoint is a publishing space. So OneDrive, think about it as your private space. That's my space for my files. Only I have access to it, unless I choose to share it with somebody else. Now, Teams is a great place for, as we've seen, people to work on files together in smaller groups, okay? People have edit permissions and files are stored right there in the same library where everybody can work on it together collaboratively. Now, once stuff is more done, the work has been done, it's more of a polished product, you can move that into SharePoint. So, but again, before we hop into the how-to, I like to frame this up this way with this model we call spheres of collaboration, okay? It helps us understand what goes where. So you can see OneDrive is the smallest sphere, again, that's private. And as we scale up through Teams and into SharePoint, our audience gets bigger and more public. So another way to think about this then is, again, I start out on OneDrive, my work is more messy, right? Like I'm going to talk from a personal example here. Katie and I, again, we write some blogs for our company, right? So we might meet up and I'll throw up a Word document or she will with a wireframe and we'll start filling it out. And I might host that in my OneDrive. And she and I'll go back and forth on it a couple of times. We might do that via a video meeting, okay? Because it's early stage and you kind of need this vocal tone, right? You need this presence. But once we have it, kind of in a working form, we might move it into a team and, at other people on our team or our boss to kind of give his feedback. And he can give us feedback asynchronously of comments. We're going to look at that here in a little bit. And once it's done, we're going to go ahead and publish it. And even beyond SharePoint, what do? Well, we publish those on our website, right? And we send them out to, most of you via email as well. So just another way to think about it. And lastly, SharePoint and, Teams and OneDrive, those are kind of more your create spaces versus once something is more polished and static, it's ready to consume. You want to host that on SharePoint or sometimes your extranet sites. Think about things like policies, finished product documentation, those kinds of things, those are a good fit for SharePoint. Whereas if it's something WIP, work in progress, you're going to handle that in OneDrive and Teams. All right, Judd, get to the good stuff. Here we go. Here's the tips. First of all, we have to save our files in the cloud for this to work. Okay, again, we got to start with the fundamentals. I know some of you probably got this down, but just stay with me here. If we're going to stop storing files on a server, we can only get into that through VPN or desktop. We don't want to jump through those hoops if we don't have to. That's the old way, okay? We save it in the cloud. What do we get? Well, quicker access and flexibility. What does this look like? Here we go. So here we've got this Word document, this Eastern Region Retail Performance document, okay? And I can just go save as like we're used to doing. And in the left-hand side here, I can pick OneDrive, and I can save it in my OneDrive, or I can pick my sites, and this is going to show my synced folders, or I can just browse to a location if I want. All right, so it's a familiar context. And in this case, we're going to go ahead and save that in, I think it's the marketing, the marketing channel here, excuse me, the marketing team, the general channel. And once we go ahead and open that up and click save, you're going to notice a couple of things happen. So here at the top, you're going to have to be a quick eye here. Let's see if I can get the laser pointer up here. You see right up here, okay, that switches from save to this PC to saved, and that lets me know it's in the cloud. And also it shows me the location, and the autosave is turned on for me automatically, okay? Pretty good stuff. So once we're saving our files in the cloud, we might want to sync them. Now, once your files are saved in the cloud, you can access them from the browser. I'm sure you're probably familiar with that, but you can also sync your files in OneDrive, Teams, and SharePoint. That way they're always available on your computer, even if you're offline. And when you add, edit, or remove files, the changes sync automatically to the cloud. For me, having been around for a while, I mean, I'm in mid 40s, so I'm used to kind of the pre-cloud world, you know. I'm used to using the file server, the VPN, all that from, decades ago. I can still use this folder view. So what does it look like, Judd? I'll show you. Okay, so how are you going to set this up if you don't have it? You're going to open OneDrive there from your browser. You're just going to go ahead and One Mississippi here as it opens. We click this sync button, and then that's going to set up a location in my folder structure here. See that OneDrive? Again, that's my private stuff for my cloud files. Anything I want to store in there and all these folders that we've created, okay? But we can also do that with Teams and SharePoint. So here I am in Teams. I'm going to hit that sync button if I'd like, and that'll sync that location right to my File Explorer, or I can open in SharePoint and I can do the same thing from the browser there. Now here's something to know. When I do that, my OneDrive files, as we saw, are stored in one place because those are my private files, right? But the team and the everyone stuff, those are stored in different places. Here's what we're looking at. See how under Success Computer Consulting, that's where you're going to find, under the name of your organization, your Teams and SharePoint files versus your OneDrive files, which are your private ones. So you can see there's kind of almost a folder structure there. So it's kind of a nice kind of hybrid way between the old and the new, right? If you want to use this folder structure. I love it. I use both the browser and this. It's a nice interplay between the both. All right, moving on. Sharing files. If we stop emailing attachments back and forth, anybody done this? You got a late project, kind of pre-cloud. There's no better way. So you're just emailing files back and forth. You're renaming them to try and keep track of versions. Oh man, it's just painful, right? We don't need to do that anymore. We're going to have one version of files, one file, and we're going to share links to that same file. And what do we get? We get one source of truth. Less back and forth, and the autosave and versioning are automatic. So here we go. What does this look like? That same document, okay, that Eastern Region Retail Performance document, man, say that 3 times fast. We right-click it and we click Share, okay? And then it pulls up this little wizard, and we can decide, do we want to share it with anyone, people on our organization, people that already have access, or specific people, and I can type in their names. Let's just say I'm going to share it with everybody. I click Apply in my organization. And then I can go ahead and say if I want to send it to Taylor, type in Taylor's name and click send. Or what I usually do is I click copy, all right? And that'll give me a sharing link. Now I copy that link and I can paste it wherever I want. I could paste it into an email and send it to Taylor and other people. Or let's say we want to send it in chat. I can right click Teams here, click new chat. Once that opens up here in a second, I can go ahead and paste that link into my message here and say whatever I need to say about it. Hey, Taylor, could you take a look at this file? I started a new version or whatever. Give me your thoughts. What do you think? All right. Pretty great. So that's it for this one. Moving on, here's kind of what I want you to know. The experience that we just looked at, that little wizard, it's the same throughout 365. So once we learn it one place, it's going to be applicable across the entire ecosystem. What do you mean, Judd? Well, here's what I mean. That little wizard, it's the same whether I'm in the browser, okay, I'm in Word, PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote, even if I'm in, as we saw, File Explorer, or if you're a Mac person, if it's in Finder on Mac, still there, still the same experience. The same in email, and it's the same in Teams. So same experience, right, across all these different apps and services. It's repeatable. Microsoft's making it as easy as they can on us. All right, next tip, collaborate. Again, save as to track multiple versions, not the best. There's a better way. If we share those links, we're gonna get auto-save and versioning are automatic and less back and forth, one source of truth. But here's the example we wanna look at. So let's say we're in a Word document with a coworker. The first thing we wanna do is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go to the review tab. We're gonna track changes for everyone, all right? And that'll show, as you can see here, we want to change that and we delete it. It shows that it was redacted and it shows what I added. Now, once all the changes are made, we can go ahead and accept them one by one, or en masse, we can accept all. But that's not all for asynchronous collaboration here. We can do that asynchronously. We can also use comments. Comments are amazing, right? So I highlight some text. I insert a comment that points right to that text. I can chat my message. I can even mention somebody to get their attention, and I go ahead and send that. And I can also reply to other people's comments right in this document in context, right? So we don't have to be in the thing at the same time. Now you can, if I'm in here with a coworker at the same time, I can see their cursor, they can see mine. We can both make changes at the same time, but you don't have to. You're not stuck with that. Also, as you see here, if you type in version at the top, you get version history for that document. Now, if I click open version here, it's not going to do it, but if I click open version, I can view that prior version to kind of see what changed. I can compare it to prior versions. I can restore it if I want. I can open it and not restore it just to copy text out of it. Lot of different power. All right, let's frame things up here with files. Big Royal Rumble, who do you think is going to win? Email attachments? On files collaboration. As the saying goes, let's get ready to rumble. I'm sorry. We got to have a little fun, right? This isn't the most exciting subject matter, but let's find out. Let's get ready to rumble here. Tracking changes in email. Not so great, as we've seen. Better in OneDrive and Teams. Can you revoke access? Once an email leaves with an attachment, where's that going? What control do you? You don't have any control, right? With you share links, you can revoke access. You can set that link to expire. You can go get it afterwards and pull it back and revoke it if you're using the permissions correctly in that little wizard. It's pretty amazing. Cannot do that in email. Is there any version control in email? Well, if you're doing that whole renaming thing, that's kludgy, but it's automatic for you in OneDrive and Teams. Simultaneous co-authoring and asynchronous co-authoring, we just looked at that. Oh, and by the way, show of hands, thumbs up. I wish there was a thumb. This is kind of a thumbs down scenario, depending on how you look at it. But does this ever happen to you? You send a couple of attachments to somebody and the email server comes back right away and says, sorry, it was rejected. And then you got to send them another email to who you're sending to and say, oh, sorry, nope, that didn't work. I'm going to send it in 3 separate emails with 2 attachments. Just waste time. What a bummer, right? Well, usually email servers, you can see 25 to 150 megs, 10 gigabyte file restriction. I mean, that's massive, folks. Thing of the past. Here's my point. With all the goodness of all that's in files in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, why would you ever share another attachment just as an attachment? I'm sure there's a good reason, but the majority of my sharing is done via links now, okay? And kind of show of hands too. You ever had this happen where you go to work on like a spreadsheet, for example, on a file server, and it shows it's locked for editing by Bob. I guess I'm picking on Bob today. I don't know. I don't mean to. But it's locked for editing, and you just can't get into it because Bob's at lunch, whatever, and you just can't do your work. Has never once happened since, in the 5+ years I've been doing things this way. since I'm using, that's the thing in the past, since we're using file sharing links in OneDrive and Teams. And also, you don't lose stuff. You ever had a file just die on you in the old world? I don't have. You lose the whole thing. It's corrupted. It's gone. Has never, ever happened to me since I started using autosave and Teams, OneDrive, and SharePoint with that versioning. Now, candidly, like I think twice, I've lost a few sentences. All right. It doesn't mean that my app isn't going to bomb out, but I've never lost a whole document. I've never lost any work to speak of that really set me back, whereas I have in the old world. I'm sure that's happened to you. Make it a thing of the past. All right. Let me wrap up here. Just a couple of keys to successful modern work, and then we'll get into the Q&A. Mindset, all right? Experimentation and openness. We're going to have to try some things, all right? Secondly, making wise trade-offs. What do you mean, Judd? Well, trade-offs are inevitable, right? If you think about kind of what we trade off, I kind of inferred it earlier, but I'll give an example here. Katie and I, again, we write some blogs. Now, early stage, when we need vocal tone and inflection, we might choose to meet point in time on Teams and collaboratively together edit a Word document at the same time. And later on, we'll trade off. We'll lose that vocal tone and inflection and the facial expressions because we don't need it once the work is more polished. The key is to understand the trade-offs that you're making, and the communications capabilities, and just make good ones and try some stuff out. All right. We got to treat modern work as a marathon. This isn't a sprint. It's going to take some time. I mean, like I say, I've been doing this for 5 years, but I'm not as good. I wasn't as good a year ago as I am today, and at Sequitur. So get started and keep going. Realize it's a marathon, and actually, really, it's a series of marathons. Be honest about it. We kind of hit these plateaus, and I'll think I'll know. Not that I know everything, but capabilities. And I'll learn some more features will come out, and you learn those. It's pretty great. But we got to understand it's not going to be quick. And lastly, when there's a big change like we saw in that legacy to modern work, people are naturally going to wonder. Coworkers are going to ask, like, I don't get it. Like, I see you doing that, but what's in it for me? I don't like it. It's something new I got to learn. My experience, the best way through that is we just got to model the desired behaviors. Hey, will you try this with me? And just show some of the benefits, the what's in it for me of all this, right? If we can show the good stuff, carrot versus stick, right? Essentially, that's what it is. We're going to be better off. So that's what I got for you. I'm going to hop out of present mode here and unshare my screen, and I'm going to turn it back over to Katie to facilitate our Q&A.
All right, great. So it looks like we have one question from Rebecca in the chat that hasn't been answered yet. So Judd, could you just explain a bit about the difference between syncing a location versus creating a shortcut in OneDrive and SharePoint?
I know what you're referring to, Rebecca. Off the top of my head, I cannot. I don't use shortcuts personally, which is a personal choice. But if you'd make a note of that, I'd be happy to follow up and find some info for you that will explain it well.
All
right. We've got Mr. Story helping us out here too in the chat. Thanks, Alex.
Yes, thank you, Alex. We do appreciate that. If anyone else has a question, feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, we can move on.
I see one in the chat here, Katie. I'll go ahead and take from Kate. Kate says, is sending files through Teams safe for confidential documents? Here's what I would say, Kate. I think so, yes. Confidential has a lot of different levels, right? But on its face, yes. You want to make sure that you've got your Teams instance secured well. And, our team, we specialize in security here at Success, so we can help you with that, in a ticket or a project if you need some help with that. But as long as you've got the settings set correctly in the application itself and at your tenancy level, and when you go to generate a sharing link, you're applying the settings that you intend, then yes, you aren't going to have any problems that way. It's really a business risk decision, so I can't fully kind of decide that for you, but I don't have any qualms about it personally. And there's a lot of kind of thought leadership about that out there that you can read if you'd like more details. But high level, yeah, I don't have any challenges doing that.
All right, next we have a question from Jake, and he says, is there a known problem with Teams shared channels right now? It's been rolled out to the public, right?
Hey, that's a great question, Jake. And I know that those are coming. I haven't tested that. I think one of my coworkers, Dee, I'm not sure if Dee is on. I don't mean to put her on the spot. You don't have to, hop on here, Dee. But one of my coworkers has been testing that with an external partners of ours, another company, and they hadn't had any problems. So I do think it's rolled out. I'm not sure if it's a public release or, in full general availability, or it's kind of in private preview. Sometimes people can sign up for kind of early access. But their reviews have been positive. Now, are there issues? I'm not sure about that. with any new feature, inevitably there's some kind of very minor thing, always, right? But I haven't heard personally of any kind of major issues. But that's going to be a game changer for kind of inter-organizational operability. If you think about what we've talked about here to kind of put your question in bigger context, Jake, great question. It's mostly focused on kind of operating inside your organization, and we could do a whole. I mean, there's so much to talk about and cover here. We can't cover it all today, but working between organizations is part of what shared channels is going to help unlock. So I'm excited for that one. I don't have all the details, but as far as I know, it's out and it's new. I would say, test it out, try it out, and go from there.
All right. Geraldine has her hand raised. If you want to go ahead and ask your question, Geraldine. Looks like she sent it in the chat. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I sent it in the chat.
Okay. She says, how do you share file links to folks outside an org when sending a meeting invite? And then how do I share a file link with outside guests? Oh, sorry, it's the same question. Same question twice.
Yeah, good question, Geraldine. So what I would do is, excuse me, goodness. I would go right-click that file and generate a sharing link, and then you can choose, rather than people inside my organization, I would choose specific people and type in their email addresses, and then that will generate a link that's valid for them only. Now, second question, how do I share a file link with outside guests when sending a meeting invite? I would do that same thing. Do I have to send a separate email with the link in SharePoint with the files link? I'm not sure I'm tracking on that. If you copy the link, the sharing link that you've generated, you can paste that into any email. You don't have to send it directly from the little wizard where you can email the link. You can copy the link and paste it into any regular email in Outlook that way. Does that answer your question?
It's probably easier to just say it. We have it start out where it says that the anyone with the link can do it. It's not an option. So like if I send out a meeting invite to outside people and it has like pre-reads for them to read, then I have to then send another email and open up that file in SharePoint so that they can then get those files so that they can access them. But I want to actually put the files in the meeting invite so they don't have to go to two different places to try to find the materials for the meeting.
I gotcha. Yeah. I think we'd want to look at that offline separately, and I could help you with that. You're with SpringPoint, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to hit me up, if you'd send me an email, I'd be happy to call you personally and we can go over that together.
Thank you.
I think there's a way through that for sure. And I'll add this, the anyone links are probably disabled because of organizational risk tolerance. A lot of organizations have that turned off because literally anyone can access an email. So it's a business risk decision, but that's probably why that option isn't available to you. I would mostly use that specific people, but we can go over that in an individual session. Yeah, you bet.
All right, we have another question from Zua. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name, but she says, I use Teams Calendar frequently for sending interview invites. I changed my default settings to allow everyone to bypass the lobby. However, I sometimes run into issues where participants are waiting for someone to accept them into the room. Do I have to open the room first in order for them to get in?
It's a great question. I haven't run into that issue, Zua, and I don't know, kind of what the root cause might be. Not sure, but we can do some research on that. Would you make a note of that one, Katie?
Yep, I sure can.
Send me your contact info in the question, and I can check that out.
Absolutely. All right. Do we have any other questions? Doesn't look like it. So if you do think of anything else, please feel free to contact us. We'll get your questions answered. But then again, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are doing a giveaway. So I'll be announcing those winners now. As I mentioned, we do have a $50 Amazon gift card that we'll be providing. And the winner of that is Tassie Hanneman. Our Lenovo noise canceling headphones will go to Hal Balfour. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your names. And then our Lenovo laptop power bank will go to Dell Overholzer. So I will be emailing you guys with how you can claim those giveaway prizes. Then lastly on our agenda, we just want to announce our new M365 training that kind of goes hand in hand with what we've talked about today. I will be giving the floor over to Alex Story, who has been so kind as to answer your questions in the chat while Judd was presenting. Alex is our learning and development professional, and he has 8 years of experience. He's trained thousands of people from all over the world, including the United States, India, Panama, Mexico, and the Philippines. He was the lead instructional designer for the Geek Squad and now leads Success's L&D effort. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the floor over to him, and I will be sharing my screen with some information about the training as he is talking. So take it away, Alex.
All right. Thank you very much, Katie. As Katie mentioned, I'm Alex, and I have the exciting opportunity to facilitate an upcoming training event that will take everything that we just learned to 11. And it's a half-day event, so there's plenty of time for two-way communication and interactive experiences. So, and also, I want to mention there's going to be lunch and swag, and a pretty robust training on Microsoft 365, if I can say that, and yeah, we'll be able to tackle Microsoft 365 together. That means you'll have a big opportunity for that communication with me and the other technical experts in the room. And you'll have a blast learning some of the in-depth tips and tricks for Microsoft 365 to elevate your skills. So I hope you can join me. It looks like Katie put some information on the screen. But where do folks sign up again, Katie?
We do not have a sign-up link for that yet. That will be on our website shortly. We have to work to get that up there. So we will be sending out an email communication once that is live. So stay tuned for more information on how you can sign up for this exciting opportunity.
Perfect. And I'd like to add just one more thing, and that is that there is a limited amount of people that can come in. It's going to be in person at Success Computer Consulting. So only 25 people can fit in our biggest room. But, hopefully we'll open it up to future sessions in the future. But just want to let you guys know that.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Alex. This is very exciting. So if you are interested, make sure to keep an eye out for that. We do just want to thank you all for participating in our session today. We hope you found it very informative. The recording will be on our website in a few days. So if you want to go back or share it with anyone at your organization, you'll have that opportunity to do so. So keep an eye out for that. And thank you all again so much for participating. We hope to see you at our future webinar events. We do have one on March 2nd and another one coming up in April. So stay tuned for more information. Thanks, guys.